You don't learn anything from books. Don't misunderstand me. That doesn't mean don't read them. But in our view, in this kind of performance world that I live in, learning is the development of new competence, right? And in the rest of the world, we tend to think of learning as gaining new insights, information, ideas, models, theories, beliefs for the sake of understanding, because we think understanding is the holy grail. And in my performance world, understanding is kind of the booby prize. It doesn't matter what you understand. What matters is what can you do.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage.
So what if I told you that one person's work has generated over $4 billion in documented value for organizations like Microsoft, AT&T, and the U.S. Special Forces? And what if the same person can show you how to apply those principles to transform your own life and work? On today's episode, we're diving deep with Chris Majer, founder of the Human Potential Project and author of The Power to Transform: A New Future Awaits. We're going to be chatting all about his journey, all about some writing tips, and pretty much the strategies that turn knowledge into impact and potential into performance. So without further ado, Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
Of course, I'm looking forward to this. You have quite the experience under your belt, and I think we can learn a ton from you. But before we talk about the book, I think it's important for us to touch upon that experience of yours. I mean, from competitive rugby to special forces to working with Fortune 500 companies. What's the connecting thread between all of these things, and how did that lead to writing your book?
Well, let's go back in time. So, the early 80s. I'm a competitive rugby player. I'm kind of getting to the point where I might have to hang it up. I'm starting to turn 30. There used to be a big tournament every year down in Monterey, California. And we're flying down from Seattle, and I get to the airport. And rats, the book that I was reading, I'd left on the bedside table. So I got to get a new book, right? So what do? No surprise. Go to the airport bookstore. You've been in the airport bookstore. You know what they look like, right? Well, strange as this is going to sound, I had a mystical experience in the airport bookstore, which is
Oh,
not the normal place these things happen, right? I'm looking at the wall of books, and yeah, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but one of them starts talking to me,
oh,
and it's not an audio book. It's literally talking inside my set, and I'm kind of looking around, going, "What's going on here?" And so, not shockingly, I went and grabbed this book and read it, and it was called The Ultimate Athlete by a guy I'd never heard of named George Leonard. And so I took it on the plane thinking, oh, I'll pick up some tips and techniques, for the tournament this week. Nope. He was talking about all sorts of things I'd never heard of: synchronicity, intentionality, some Japanese energy called ki, some guy in his black belt test, and all this cool stuff. And I thought, well, I'm not sure I really understand this, but I like it. I resonated with it somehow. And that set me on a completely different life course. Um, I'd always been interested in the phenomenon of human performance. So I took up the study of Aikido when I quit playing rugby. I met a guy there who was a sports psychologist. And he was fascinating to me because he could explain experiences that I had had and written off as too many bangs on the head or flashbacks to the 60s. And we got to talking, and we were just young and naive enough to not know it was probably not a good idea. So we started a company, and the company had one mission. We wanted to work exclusively with athletes to see what we could do to enhance their performance on the field by doing off-field work. And we basically took the old Greek model of mind, body, and spirit, brought what was then contemporary technology to it, and went to work. We had great success with our first batch of clients who were all individual performers, there's golfers and bodybuilders and archers and runners. And we did have one fundamental problem, which is that in those days, Nike and Adidas didn't exist the way that they do today. So all of our clients were amateurs, which meant they were broke. So
mm,
doing great work, not getting paid, flaw in the business plan. So we turned our attention to teams, saw the same thing you've seen, probably participated in, which is we could take a group of individual players who as individuals were great, put them together on a team, and the team would stink. Well, that makes no sense. But it happens often enough that there's something to learn here. So in 1984, we coined the word team cohesion and added mind body team. Did work with a lot of national teams, Olympic teams, professional teams. And that work, surprisingly and unexpectedly for us, caught the attention of the Army. So we found ourselves down at scenic Fort Hood, Texas, where we did a program down there. That was so successful, it caught the attention of the Special Forces. And we went through a long process, but ended up doing a year-long classified project with the Special Forces where we had a programmatic blank check to push the boundaries of human performance. We had two A-teams under our operational control 24 hours a day for 6 months. And we set all sorts of records with them. At the end of that, I said to my guys, we've been fortunate. We've had an opportunity to develop a body of work that's proven very effective in two arenas where performance matters and where you can measure it. First with athletes, then with soldiers. I don't want to spend my whole career training soldiers. Now, don't get me wrong, the work of doing with the soldiers was terrific, best stuff we ever did. The process of getting to do it was daunting, and I didn't feel like hiring 5 guys to do contract compliance. So I said to my team, we're going to turn our attention to business. This is a different game, and in many ways, it's going to be more challenging. And they all looked at me like I was nuts. I said, I don't mean physically, but think about it. In business, there's no timeout, there's no spring training, there's no stand down. By our standards, they don't do any real training. And on any given team, there's a vast gap in the level of competence and commitment on the part of the players. How do we work in that arena? We built out a corporate program, tested it on a little subcontractor of Boeing's, and only way I can explain it is Providence was looking out for me in those days. My second client was AT&T.
Okay.
Yeah, I went from obscure to centering in the circus, right? We went from 5 guys to 85 guys in 6 months. And as I tell everybody, I made all the stupid mistakes you could make in trying to grow a company, and it somehow seems to have succeeded despite my best efforts. So that's a long answer to a simple question, but how all that stuff strings together is that thread of performance, right?
Yeah.
And our interest in the people who are on the edge wanting to really push the boundaries.